Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
I've had every single iPhone that Apple has released. I don't know if I'm ever going to stop buying iPhones. It's like one of those things that I can count on every year, something new being released. And it's like I upgrade my camera and I happen to get a new phone with it, even though the changes have been incremental. I mean, that's just how technology tends to evolve. And I think the way that Apple's approaching it, too, is really smart for the marketplace. More to the point of how I've appreciated the way Apple has done things and what I hope they don't lose sight of is approaching what people want and getting them to focus on output and results, not necessarily the specifications. And I gotta put a finer point on that because I appreciate deeper specifications as well. Whoa. That was not my fault, by the way. A car darted out because it realized that it needed to get into an exit lane. And I'd be talking to Diana anyway, hence the reason I'm recording this video. She said, oh, you should record a video, this is great.
Yeah, I was.
So you can thank my wife, who would not be my wife had it not been for a video I did on an earlier iPhone, so I guess I have the iPhone to thank for
3GS?
us,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
I don't know.
So, you know, they take, for example, the iPhone 5S. They talked about features they built into the camera in terms of software. So what'll happen when you take a photo, it will snap 4 exposures effectively and then sew them all together and give you the best overall composite image. And that's all you care about. Really? I mean, do you think, oh, I want to have the biggest megapixel image in the entire galaxy? Really? Why? I mean, you're going to share it on Instagram, so you're, or, you know, even Facebook, where they do a whole bunch of cropping and whatnot. Not unless you're into, like, printing and, you know, super high-end photography, it's not going to matter as much. And if you are, you probably have a DSLR. So what they're doing is they're taking features, best-in-class features from DSLRs, and bringing them into the phone that you probably have on you all the time. I know so many people who buy super expensive cameras and then leave them at home because they're too heavy. They don't want to lug them around. I don't blame them. I've done that in the past too. And I think, though, instead of focusing on, one of the things that I was hoping for was better optical image stabilization, also known as OIS, with still photos on the iPhone. And I really didn't hear much about that. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know, that's a feature in a camera that I would look for to try to take better photos, because it keeps the camera steady. You don't have as much shake or blur. You know, your hand may be steady, but maybe your subject's blurry. So optical image stabilization couldn't necessarily fix your subject being blurry. So what they did was they focused in on, if you'll pardon the pun, they focused in on the output of the image. So whether or not you have optical image stabilization with a software tweak, a modification, an application, you're just going to get a better photo. And that's what people care about. They care about having a better photo. They care about having that output. They don't care about what goes into it or how it's done. And I think that, if anything, that's what has made Apple what it is, concentrating more on that part of the experience. And really what has, I think, kept me hoping and wanting more from not just Apple, but any company. I mean, who would argue and say, I don't care about my output? Nobody. It would be asinine for them to say something like that. Of course they would care about the output. But the hope has always been better specifications and better hardware are going to automatically make better output. That's not always the case. Better software, better workflow, certainly. But just raw hardware itself does not make a complete picture. It's just part of it. And so I think that is really, if when people say that, you know, Apple's no longer innovative, it's lost to magic. Well, maybe they're disillusioned, but I think when I see features like that and how they're implemented, to me that encapsulates everything. And so I get really disappointed when I see just, I would say, just horrific UI and UX oversights in the first version of iOS 7, like really bad. And I've documented them. I've reported them to a senior staff person who deals with support in iOS. I may have even fixed a bug that I found in the Gold Master of iOS 7 since I have a developer account and have been running it. That's why I care, because I want it to be a good experience for me. And I care about that as much as I would care about any particular company that was trying to create experiences. And that, though, is where the mark is. And that's why Apple's light years beyond where a lot of other companies are at this stage. I think you see bits and pieces of that type of implementation creeping up and surfacing sometimes from other companies, but that to me is what makes Apple Apple. It's attention to detail generally, but I can tell you this, I think Apple's attention to detail is slipping, and that, as their value in the marketplace, could get watered down real quick as more and more companies start paying attention to detail, if they do.